सपना हम लोगों का होना चाहिए।
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Good morning, dear chartered accountants. Welcome to the Chartered Chat Show. I hope I'm audible enough. Okay, so the most creative study circle in India has a great show lined up for you today. It's really going to. This is Nishchit Shetty. I am the host for today. So today is a legendary session. We have three guests in for our show today. CAS Venkat, who is the founder at Practus, CA Dinesh Jain, who is the ex-CFO of Indian Multinational Meril Life Sciences, and CA Sandhya Upadhyay, CFO of Aditya Birla Sun Life Pension Management. I will now introduce each speaker in front of you, starting with S. Venkataraman. He is popularly known as S. Venkat, co-founded Practus Advisors around a decade ago, a company with a mission to disrupt the consulting space by pioneering the concept of ROI in his space. With its unique implementation-based model, today, Practus serves clients from its offices in India, New York, and Dubai, and has worked over 700 organizations to deliver measurable ROI of 5x to 10x through their office of CFO, performance improvement, and business transformation services. Over the last 25 years, Venkat has been one of the core business and financial transformers for over 500 clients globally. A qualified chartered accountant, cost management accountant, and a practicing risk manager. He started his career with PwC, where he worked for 8 years. He was appointed as the CFO of Aeon's Indian subsidiary, when he was just 28 years old. S. Venkat has actively partnered with PE, VC funds, startups, family managed businesses, and enterprises, clients to improve business performance and fast track transformation journeys. While pursuing his passion for problem solving for business, Venkat also actively mentors young professionals, both within and outside practice, providing valuable career tips and guidance. Introducing the second guest today, CA Sandhya Upadhyay. She is the CFO and CISO of Aditya Birla Sun Life Pension Management Limited. Sandhya, in the role of CFO, has played a pivotal role in defining the framework in which the organization operates today. She has been involved in determining how Aditya Birla adapted to the significant changing regulatory guidelines and how work is done. Finance professional with over 20 years of experience across industries, including banking, financial sectors, conglomerates, pharma, and consulting. Proven competence in driving initiatives across the organization for operational ease, productivity improvement, and cost reduction. Adept in interacting with the cross-functional resources, managing the stakeholders. She is the one who believes and follows the principle, upskill and reskill. Introducing the third speaker for CA Dinesh Jain. He is the founder partner of Goel Gaurav Jain and Company LLP. He's an ACA, ACS, CMA, forensic auditor, ACMA London, CGMA London, ACG London, ex-CFO of Indian Multinational Meril Life Sciences, ex-private equity True North, ex-Fortune 500 FMCG Colgate, and J&J, versatile speaker and a traveler. He is currently operating into management advisory into MSME and startup space. He is working on 7 startups across the sector. He is also a Thai charter member and also the MSME and Startup Committee of WIRC of ICAI. Also partnered with the largest venture capital firm called Venture Catalyst India to work with startups. This firm is behind Shark Tank India. Okay. With this brief introduction for all the guests, I welcome all the guests here to the show. Welcome, sirs and madams. Moving ahead, before we start the show, I have my co-host here, Yogesh Bhandari. He would also want to interact with the audience. May I request Yogesh to take over?
Hello everyone. Am I audible, Nishchit?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So good morning everyone. So I being the co-host for the show, my name is K. Yogesh Bhandari. Before proceeding, I will just give you a go ahead about what we are going to do. I'll just share my video for the sake of convenience for the rest part of the session. Just a second, allow me to share it. My screen is also visible.
Yes.
Yeah, so actually we are going to use this particular tool called Slido. One second, let me just present it in presentable format. So so a screen must be appearing on your device right now. So what you can do, you can go to Google Chrome and you can directly type in the slido.com and then you can put the password which is there. This particular number is the password. So this Slido tool is going to help us for the rest of the session. We are going to play quiz today, which is based on this particular session on CFO, success as a virtual CFO. It will help you give your answer properly. So what we are going to do, we are going to run a quiz, and the one who's going to score maximum marks, they might win some gift hampers which will be given by us. So if you guys have logged in by now, you can type in your name, which is the very first question. So code is the 7994744. Alternatively, you can scan this QR code and you can proceed it further. So there are two ways to do it. Firstly, you can scan this QR code and proceed, or else you can go to the Google Chrome and type in slido.com and you can type in the number you will get to enter. You guys, you will have to show active participation because we are going to run quiz show and you might win some gift hampers which has been given by Nishchit today.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we got some response. Good going.
Come on, we want to make it an interactive session, so people please participate. Let's have fun together. We want this to be very productive to you as well.
Hi Siddharth, hi Kathy, hi Sharad, hi Shubham, hi Kunal, Forum, Abhishek.
Nice, so people are getting it.
Yeah. So gradually, I think the moment they will be ready. So I expect in the later part of the section there will be more participation from people. Great, Nishchit and Umesh. So I'll proceed to the next part now. So what do you do? So if you can give us an introduction about what actually do you do? Okay, so okay, we got some responses, and majorly people who are into practice are there in the session today. Yeah, there are some service people too. Great. Okay, so I guess we are pretty much ready now. Nishchit, I hand it over to you for the next part of the session.
Cool. Thanks, audience, for letting us know who you are and what you do. This will surely help us to take the session forward and so that we deliver you in the right manner. Okay. So welcome again, all the guests. Today's show, I will say, is divided into three parts. The first part we'll be discussing about the why CFO and all those questions related to the whys. The what will be the second part, and the how would be the third part. So this session is broken down into three sessions, and we will keep on interacting with the audience to just to check whether they are listening or not. Okay, not in a true sense, but we have a few questions for you, and you also have some gift hampers to participate, right? As an encouragement to participate. So let us start. Let us start with the first round of discussion. To all the three stalwarts here, my first question would be: tell us your story. How did you start your journey? When did you decided that you want to be a CA, and how has the journey been? So first would be Venkat sir.
Thank you, Nishchit. Thank you, Yogesh. Very warm welcome to all participants who are sparing time on a Sunday morning. I hope we can be as engaging as Dinchak Puja. So very innovative entry to the program. But between Dinesh, myself, and Sandhya, I'm sure we'll do our best to keep everyone engaged. On the point of CA, it's fairly simple. I mean, my father and grandfather are both IITians, and growing up with them, I decided that it's probably not a good idea to have so many people concentrating only on science as a vocation. So I was very clear. I mean, when I saw their lives, I wasn't really too excited about pursuing technology as a career. So probably maybe when I was maybe 13 or 14, it was pretty clear that I want to be a chartered accountant. Why a CFO? I spent 8 years in the industry before moving on to. I spent 8 years with PwC in practice before moving on to Aon in the industry. So again, when I started my career, I was very clear. I wanted to kind of see life from the practice angle. I wanted to spend some time as a CFO from the industry angle, and eventually I wanted to turn entrepreneur. So life has been kind. I think I was 8 years in practice, 8 years as a CFO, and then subsequent to that, I turned entrepreneur, because I think the way in which a CA kind of views business problems in each of these three vocations is slightly different. While on the surface it may look like it is the same thing, but I think the way in which you approach the problem is slightly different. Why did we start outsource CFO services, what you call as virtual CFO services, is because we see a massive demand supply gap in the market. I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who bring some stellar qualities to the table, right? A lot of them are very hardworking. They bring huge risk-taking ability. Many of them have created stupendous wealth for themselves. But are they good at managing that wealth? Are they good at institutionalizing their organizations? Are they good at preserving capital? Are they good at monetizing the results of their hard work? Probably the answer is no, right? Because they're extremely opportunity led. There's absolutely no, there's very little focus really on the risk side. And when we started this about 10 to 12 years back, it was a time when most family managed businesses were highly over leveraged, where they'd taken a lot of debt in relation to equity. They were all extremely people dependent. When you go beyond the owner manager, you will not find the second layer of management in the company, right? So very poor institutionalization, extremely high dependence on manual processes, right? I mean, ERP is like probably was just unknown to a lot of these companies. The maximum automation they would have done is probably having Tally. Right, and most of them didn't know how to present themselves in front of, say, a VC fund or a PE fund, or even a strategic partner from overseas. So we see all this as a gap, right? And these are all typically the roles that a modern day CFO has, is typically required to play. And all of us, with Sandhya, Dinesh, myself, all of us have played CFO roles. The business partnering role, working closely with the board, with the investors, with the CEO, to take care of these aspects. I mean, how to grow a company sustainably, how to focus on maximizing the return on capital, how to improve the EBITDA, how to improve governance, which is critical, and therefore how to improve enterprise valuation is really the job description of a CFO, right? So, I mean, I think more and more companies in India are looking to modernize, looking to professionalize. but they don't know how to get the right quality of assistance. And clearly there isn't that much supply of CFOs in the market today, right? So which is where we saw an opportunity to create an outsourced CFO services firm when we entered the market about 10 to 12 years back. Nishchit. Thank you.
That was great. Similar question to Sandhya ma'am now. Tell us about your journey. Tell us the story. And what does the day in a life of a CFO looks like? Ma'am, you're on mute.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity, guys. After Venkat speaking such elaborate, I think I'm going to fall short of my words. What to put it? Okay. So when did I think your question has two parts. When did I decide to become a CA? So to be very honest with you, I'm an accidental CA. So till graduation, it was more of like Karlu. I had some difficult time while I was studying and something. I was a good student, but financially we had some issues. But there was one sentence that my father said, whatever you do, you need to do best. So when I was a commerce student, I decided to take up commerce, pursue my further education in that. So the best in commerce, it's CA. It is the pinnacle of that profession, what I see. So that is something drives key. If you are doing anything, you need to do best. So CA was an ultimate option for me. So that is, I said, till my graduations and everything, I never thought what I'm going to do. I just went with the flow. But when I graduated, I topped my districts and everything. And then that was one silver sentence that my father says, and I still follow that. Do the best. So CA is the best thing. There is nothing one should ever think of. If you are pursuing commerce, it is an ultimate goal. That's the thing, no? We need to strive always to get the best. So that was the thing, and I decided I started with my CA journey. But it has evolved over a period of time and really enjoying the things what I'm doing. And I think it's the best decision I had taken in my life to do a CA. Your second part of question about what does a typical CFO role looks. So see, actually CFOs are generally the traditional roles are still talking about the stewardship role, asset management or business. No, it is not. CFO roles have evolved a period of time. You need to be a strategic partner. So if I put it, you are actually a pseudo CEO. You are managing the entire affairs of business. You are the right hand of the CEO. He may not, the finances, what we understand, nobody understands. We can read the balance sheets like nobody ever does. Let it be from anybody from any different, I can challenge that any IM or any ISB guy coming abroad on board. The balance sheets, what CAs read, nobody can see those aspects, the approaches. So CA is an ultimate and a typical role, the change is a change actually. CAs are not just looked at the strategy as the financial guys who just come up the table and talks about the budget and everything. They are expected to partner with the CEO. They're expected to partner with the management. So the CFO role has evolved over a period of time. At least what I do is, I'm a CISO as well of my company. So the CFO role actually drives into three initiatives. One, digitalization, digital initiatives where you marry the organization. So the operational parts comes in and the digital aspect, the security. So environmental, social governance the aspect is there. The partnership on these aspects with the CEOs is what is looked out by organizations. They do not want you to just look at the balance sheet. So because of the balance sheet, then they will hire an accountant. They will hire a finance head. You are not a CFO if you are just looking at the balance sheet. So you need to have that shift from just being an accountant or stewardship to monitoring and managing the environmental, social and governance aspects, digital initiatives of the organizations. It is what a typical role of a CFO in current organizations they look at. So for me, with these parameters, when we start our day, we look at what are the initiatives we are taking, what are the things we are driving. Balance sheet is one aspect of it. So this is a typical role of a thing. So probably I can elaborate more as we go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. We would want perspective as well that we have someone here who sorry, is there. So we have one CFO who is firm and one is under employment as well.
Yeah.
It's next same question. Dinesh Jain.
Yeah. So thanks, Nishchit, and thanks, Yogesh. And I think my co-panelists, both Sandhya and Venkat, both elaborated, quite well this particular aspect. In terms of why did I choose my CA? Because I think till 12th standard, I was very weak in science and mathematics. So I didn't have a choice to go into IIT or other vocations. So I chose CA because I did not have any other option to choose at that point of time. Okay, that was and God has been kind. I mean, could clear all this CA, CWA, etc. on time, and happened to work with best of the brains in the country. Got an opportunity to work with companies like Colgate-Palmolive, Johnson & Johnson, and then got into a private equity, True North, which is where I saw a very different world, which is when this startup world was evolving about 10 years back. So last 5 years also has been working with a promoter, and he's putting his own money to take a company at a global scale. Got to know how a typical entrepreneur or how a typical CEO is creating a company, and got an opportunity to see from his eyes was the kind of opportunity. Coming to the practice in the entrepreneurship, so having worked into corporate sector and all, this is when I decided that I will get into my own consultancy, and which is where I started getting into the areas like the virtual CFO, like the startup CFO, etc. So in our view, startup is a opportunity for next decade, which is where we are focusing on the startup space big time. And also at this point of time, we are focusing on, across all the startups into transformation of businesses, what one would expect at this point of time in small startups, and which is where we are focusing upon. So interesting journey is taking place, Nishchit.
So also, sir, just I wanted to ask you, why do you think CAs are the best fit for this? Why only chartered accountants as CFOs?
So in my view, I think CA being CA has got a good hand on financials, and finance gives you first entry to understand what is happening in the business. Generally, the people who go beyond the balance sheet and the typical P&L and try to understand what is happening with the business and have a forward-looking approach is ideally suited into that particular part. So the CA which is able to understand business and able to transform or participate in the journey of transformation are ideally suited for a CFO role, is how things are working. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so now we will be looking forward to the next question, which will start. I'll start within a few minutes. We are discussing virtual CFO services, and virtual CFO services, business owners often face this problem that regular CFO is not at board at times, or they need someone as an in-house CFO, maybe not on a full-time basis. That is where virtual CFO comes into picture. And there are four ways in which virtual CFO services are offered. The first is like an outsourced CFO, like shared CFO. There's a CFO who works across various companies. There could be an interim CFO who could offer his services as an interim CFO. For example, the main CFO is not there, and for a short-term period, a CFO is needed to be appointed. So that would be an interim CFO. The other case would be a special purpose or assignment-based CFO. For example, a company needs a CFO for taking a particular decision decision to the public. So for that particular reason, they can appoint a CFO and then take his services, or support services for CFO function. Support services would mean there's already a CFO in the company, but he needs support from an outside consultant to work for his company. So this is just to create certain context in the minds of the people as well, as to how we are going to proceed forward. There are various ways in which a CFO services can be delivered. My next question for all the three speakers, I'd go one by one between them, would be, as a chartered accountant, what should be our skill sets? What is any three skill sets, if you could share, what we can have to render the service as a virtual CFO? We'll start with Venkat sir first.
Yeah, so I would probably have only, instead of three, just one thing, which is about relevance and value addition, Nishchit. Right, that's what we have to continuously ask ourselves. That why would somebody want to hire us? Okay, now we may have an aspiration that that we should get hired and we should be winning more clients. Okay, but I think we'll have to look at the problem a little bit more outside in to say that why would a client want to bring us on board? So I think if you look at the and I'll kind of probably segment the market into two parts, right? So if you look at say the MSMEs, and I'll probably kind of define that as, say, maybe a company below 25 crore turnover, right? And so it's a very general kind of a statement that I'm making. I mean, everybody has got their own definition of MSME. And I'm also consciously using size, okay, as a proxy for maturity. Not necessarily maturity of business processes or systems, but maturity of the client's thought process, right? So if the client is not, if they're not able to make the distinction, and I think it's a big part of the Indian promoter ecosystem is still at a place where they're not able to make the differentiation between a Munim and a CFO, right? And I think that's a tough part of the market to crack, right? Because even before you start your scoping and fee negotiation, etc., you've got to first create the need. Right. To be honest, we are not very active in that space. Practice, while we tried to crack that segment, I think it's a lot of effort to kind of try and crack the extremely value conscious. But more than that, I think it's about whether they have the vision to be able to understand what is it that a CFO can do, right? So I think the only way to crack this segment is and I'm going to kind of make this comment largely to practicing CAs, because that's what seems to be the majority of today's participation, is to almost convert the cost of the fee, right, into an investment, right? So we came up with a concept at Practus called ROI by Practus, which is return on investment. Yeah, so any business owner understands the concept of investment. They don't have a definition of cost. Yeah, they will only incur those costs that are absolutely essential to kind of keep the lights running, right, in their business. So whatever minimum people are required to run the manufacturing or sales, they will incur those costs. Beyond that, everything else is a waste of money from their perspective, right? So if you have to create a need, and the need exists. I mean, nobody's disputing that all MSMEs in India require very good quality CFO services if they have to grow, right? So the need is there, but the individual concerned is not able to see that need. Yeah. So I think the practicing CA has got to take the lead in first creating that need, in making the individual aware about that need. Yeah, it's like us. Let's say if I'm having a normal running shoe. Okay, but then Nike creates a need for me to buy a Nike shoe. Okay, now maybe the difference कुछ 19-20 का फर्क होगा. At least I can't find the difference between multiple running shoes. I'm not that evolved, but any brand, they create something, right? They said just do it. They will have ads, right? They will say, okay, your performance is going to be improved. These are breathable shoes. So somewhere what happens is they have created the need to kind of move, say, beyond a 1,500 shoe to a 5,000 rupee shoe, right? And that transition, which is there, is to make a user, a consumer like me, aware that I have got certain needs that today I'm not seeing, but actually it's a need. that other people have successfully discovered, right? So same transition, because buyer behavior is the same everywhere, right? The psychology of the buyer is the same, that we don't want to buy anything, whether it's products or services, unless we perceive the need, right? So as practicing CAs, we are able to see that MSME has got a need. But till the time the MSME himself or herself recognizes that there is a need, there is no starting point. Yeah, and then we'll keep trying to sell, and in the desperation, we'll keep dropping prices. It is not going to go anywhere, right? So that part of education, I think, is a very critical component in trying to build this virtual CFO practice. And the second thing, as I said, is when you're doing that, you also have to simultaneously present a business case to say that if you invest this money with me, this is the kind of return that I can generate for you. Okay, so I think unless you crack these two problems, Hamilton, I think these are the only two problems in my view that need to be cracked. Okay, if you have to get into the client's pocket, if you like.
So I would repeat that. You mean to say that we must be able to communicate our services effectively to the audience and present a business case so that
I'll stop you there, Nishchit. This is exactly what I'm saying. See, I'm saying कि हम क्या बेचना चाह रहे हैं ना, उसके बारे में बात करने से कुछ फायदा नहीं है, ठीक है? Because वो हमारी गरज है, हमारी जरूरत है, right? So you know the need to sell our services is our problem, right? It is not the client's problem. Client's problem is increasing his profit. So you have to first of all change this paradigm to say what's in it for the client. Okay, the moment you start talking about services means your services, that word comes, that automatically means we are thinking as a vendor, right? If you have to think as a business partner, you would have to, it's the same thing, right? It's just that you have to shift yourself, sit on the same side as the MSME owner table. You know, you have to be on the other side and say what's important to him, right? Profit maximization is important to him. Cash flow conservation is important to him. So it has to be couched in the same problem statement has to be said, ki, let us help you to improve, okay, your profit. That is the, I wouldn't want to call it, that is your mission in life, right? So this restatement is what I'm saying is important shift for us to make in our minds.
Just to put it in a form of an example, maybe not saying that we can do cash flow management, but saying that we can give an impact on your cash flows. We can help you get greater returns on it.
Correct.
Something.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, Sandhya ma'am, same question for you. What is the skill set that we should? Let us help the audience here develop that.
So here, when Venkat, I think very nicely put up the point that it is a packaging. So I think I'll put this into two aspects. Venkat is saying is about you are a product and how you package it and how you sell it in the market. So I would like to go a step down about the product. Well, packaging and marketing, yes, but first of all, how many of us understand that we are a product in the market and we are ready to sell ourselves? So the first thing, awareness about the product. If the product itself specifications are not clear, you will never be able to market yourself. The product needs to understand what they're offering. And over a period of time, as I have grown in my career, I still feel CA Institute plays a very big role. And they have those products where you can train yourself and make yourself the Nike or the Apple of your business. So there are three curriculums what we do. We are a CA, so we have the analytical bent of mind, but we do not think ourselves other than the balance sheet wala part. We have been taught to be a custodian of the financials, cash flow banaya, balance sheet banaya, and asset we have reported. Budgeting, we are taking a scale of a budget and we move around the entire organization saying, I have a budget scale, I am going to measure it. So this is one aspect. I am sure most of you have heard about internal control on financial reporting. We just use it as a reporting tool. We take it as an auditors, we sign it and send it. There is a huge work that goes into ICOFR. How many of us understand? So that is the second aspect which the institute has taught us. We need to marry. When we look at the balance sheet, we marry with the changes in the process, internal controls, then the losses, the operational loss, the financial losses that gets controlled. So internal control, financial reporting, that is the second leg which I'm marrying. The third leg which I'm marrying is DISA, IT, cyber security. We all are in digital world. So definitely everything around, there is a huge risk. We are exposed to this risk. This is the third angle. So this bouquet of knowledge what the CA Institute provides us, We need to marry these three. So when you marry these three in today's world, CAs, as I said, are not only required to look at the balance sheet. तब तो आप मुनीम बन गए. You are presenting yourself as a CFO. So you need to have the CFO qualities. So the three things we are marrying: my basic knowledge with respect to accounting, the analytical bent of mind, my process approach where I'm marrying with ICO4 in terms of understanding what are the risks, where I'm mitigating those risks, and cybersecurity where the technology part comes in. When I have a bouquet, I am there to go and sell. iOS marks premium over Android, takes premium over Android. Why we are paying so much money? Because of the three features: the user interface, the quality, and the security. Otherwise, we are just becoming like any other product. So these are I think this is a bouquet when we bring in. Then we go and market, which I completely agree with Venkat, how we market ourselves. We can't go and tell only we are doing your balance sheet. If I'm as an employer, I want to hire, I would like to see somebody who comes to me with a perspective. One, GST impact. GST, ITC is held, there is some regulation that I say. How it is going to impact the organization? There is a cash flow crunch created. You have blocked my ITC, I'm going to suffer that. Wo angle, when you think it from an organizational angle, from a business angle, then it works. So a virtual CFO, I would say, is an intrapreneur. You are not doing something for somebody else. You are an entrepreneur. In-house, you have controls. You need to drive that. And trust me, the organizations when we are practicing in this segment, the organizations you are going to get are startups. A full-fledged, fully grown organization will have a regulatory requirement of having a CFO. They will have thousands of people on board. Aapki zarurat nahi hai. We are going to face to organizations which are startups, which will have there you have to do entire thing. So you need to have that bent of mind to tell him. A CEO or a business head, he is more interested how I'm going to grow the business. But in terms of support, how he is going to grow this business, these aspects are equally important. So how do we address that? So when you have these three bouquets, when you go as a packaging product to that company, they are going to look at you. Then you are doing a value addition to them. How are you going? You can't just go, I know just the balance sheet. I'm a chartered accountant, I'm good at it. No, you are not. Then you are becoming as of like that organization is doing CAs, a balance sheet bana rahe. So the product to become the Nike, to become the Apple of the business, that three aspects. Institute has beautiful curriculums they have given. If we bring all these three, then I take up Venkat's advice of marketing myself. You are a top of your game. Nishchit, you are mute.
Yeah, sorry. That was well put together. Three skill sets: the knowledge, the process part, and the IT part of it. Same question to you, sir, Dinesh, sir. Three skill set that a CA should possess to render, to deliver such services.
So I think I would go, I tend to go with first point which Venkat mentioned is first create a need to have that CFO. I think the need is there in the market, but yeah, people are, because they have seen only Munims in the market and they don't know whether what is that virtual CFO service? What is it all about? So that view in the market is not very clear, that what does this service mean and therefore what value one has to pay. So that particular first aspect is very, very important. Number one, I think when you look at it, the virtual CFO, this particular, the sector itself is very different from traditional chartered accountancy role. Traditional chartered accountancy role will have the post-mortem approach. A CFO will have, business partnering approach. Usko dhanda samajh mein aana chahiye. That his understanding about the business, what are the critical levers of business, what are the things which are happening and which is impacting the particular business, that understanding has to be very, very clear. So it is a business-centric, business partnership approach in terms of first viewpoint. The second viewpoint, an ability to understand the metrics, analytics, and connect the dots between that analytics, that what is that story it is telling to you. There are too many people available in the market who are able to make nice charts. But when you see that chart, that what are these typical dots and connecting the story and where are the gaps. That ability to understand that particular part is very, very important in this particular role. That's point number 2. Point number 3 is typically a chartered accountant has always, मैंने audit कर लिया, मैंने vouching कर लिया, मैंने GST किसी ने business कर दिया तो मैंने GST file कर दिया या मैंने income tax भर दिया. That's a postmortem approach. Virtual CFO is always solution oriented. If you were doing 2 crore rupees business this month and in next 6 months the turnover is supposed to touch 4 crore rupees run rate, then where is the gap and what it takes for an organization to solve that particular thing to go from 2 crore to 4 crore? That is in terms of revenue. This possible approach could also be in terms of profitability. So you are having a 1 crore rupee profitability and the expectation is we will have 1.5 crore rupees profitability a month. Then how we will reach to that 1.5 crore? Through increase in revenue, through changing some levers in the cost, through changing the product mix, through changing the product pricing. This is quite, you are almost a part of the business. So the approach in this particular case is your attachment with the business, your dealing with the business people is far more inclusive as compared to a traditional chartered accountant, which is going once in 3 months, once in 6 months, or once in a month presenting a data. No, it is not that. I think you are living with business in this particular case. And what Venkat said is that when you are trying to make an impact of 5x or 6x, whatever that only happens when you are part of that story, when you are ingrained into that particular story. So far more deeper level of involvement is required. So one should have that approach. And I would say that if you have that approach and you are able to marry it with the need, is when you will be able to make the cut. Is the point of view.
So the 3 basic skill sets that Dinesh just said was being business centric. Second would be to connect the dots to understand the story of any organization and to be solution oriented. Correct, sir? So these are the 3 skill sets that I hope the audience is taking down all the notes that the speakers are speaking. We'll be now moving forward to a small break where my co-host will again interact with the audience. And in the next section, like I said, we will deal with the house. We just talked about what is strategy to involve in their business, be solution oriented. We'll be going into the house in the next segment. And I'll hand it over to the co-host Yogesh Bhandari now to talk to the audience.
Yeah, hello everyone. So we are back with the with some interaction with the crowd based on the topics that we have discussed just right now. So I'll share my screen again, and I hope my screen is visible. And
yes.
So we will again go. So we have prepared some quiz for you, and right now we are going to start that quiz. So request you guys to go again to the Chrome, type in Slido, type in the passcode number, or else you can use the QR code. So I'll immediately start, and we have a timer for each and every question. So make sure that you respond to the question within the given piece of time. So here I begin with the quiz, and that question number 1 is this. So you guys yourself, you read it. We have a timer of 60 seconds for this. I'll just read question for you. So as a part of strategic formulation, which of these strategies are not defined in early growth stage and during the growth phase of a business? We are down with 30 seconds. 30 seconds more. Come on, guys, you'll get the chance to win the gift given by Nishchit. So last 5 seconds. And we are done. So majorly, so the answer is checking whether GST has been properly calculated or not. Is the answer to this question. Moving on to the next quiz. Next we also have a leadership board here. So these are the people who have given the answers within the given time. So the one who has given in the least time is on the number one position. Thereafter, it continues. So we move on to the next quiz, which is review of operational MIS or departmental MIS is a part of which KRA of Virtual CFO? We have 30 seconds for this. Last 5 seconds remaining. On. Okay, time's up. I'll move on to the leadership board. So the right answer is finance and accounts, and the leadership board shows that Nishchit is on head. Nishchit, you're not allowed to participate. Okay, we will move on to the next question. So the next one is, how much experience should a CFO service provider leader have? You have 30 seconds to answer this question. Now we have next 5 seconds. Okay, time's up. And right answer is 12 to 15 years is what is required for a CFO service provider to have an experience. And on the leadership board, we have Shetty leading the board. And this is the table, and you need to calculate company's working capital. We have 15 more seconds to answer. Come on, guys, participate. We have 18 participants. I need participation from everyone. Okay, so this part. So the right answer is 66,000. And the leadership board states that Shetty is on the top. Right now I can see Ronak is also leading the board. Suman, Foram, great going. So with with this part, like we have this particular questions only on this part of the break. I hand it over to Nishchit right now. Want to play the reel?
Okay, lovely. So we've had great fun. Of course, I was leading on the board, but Yogesh didn't want me to win that T-shirt.
Of course, yes.
Nevertheless.
Of course, yes. You're not allowed to play.
But good. People are participating, and we wanted maximum participation out of it. Now we are moving ahead with the next section, and the next section is to deal with the house of Virtual CFO. The nature of engagement. So this is the part that we'll be discussing in the house segment. What is a CFO? CFO facilitates as a strategy facilitator. He has a result-oriented approach. He's also a coach and a friend. And a CFO see how he can create the long-term association with the client. So keeping this as a nature of engagement, we're now moving on to the next section, where we'll discuss a few questions. Okay. The first question would be there's some disturbance, I think. Yogesh, can you
Okay, I'll check. I'll check.
We will start with the first question to Venkat sir. Venkat sir, the question is, what are the services in which virtual CFO can act like a strategy facilitator? So like we see, the nature of our engagement is to help the client in formulating strategies. Facilitating strategy for a business, what does that mean? What services can we?
Okay.
Venkat sir, are you there?
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I think that, see, again, if the focus is MSMEs, I would think that the strategy and execution cannot be separated, Nishchit, right? See, I think head of strategy position makes sense in a much larger, more complex environment. Yeah, so if you look at maybe a company like Byju's, they will have a head of strategy. Aditya Birla Group, definitely, Sandhya, I'm sure will be working with the head of strategy. But I think for MSMEs, strategy is not really a full-time role, right? So in a sense, it gets woven into the execution aspect of what the CFO is trying to do. To my mind, it's a one-time effort. Okay, especially I think that most of the work is upfront to help the founder understand as to what is it that he wants to do with the company, right? Because most of them are like us, right? They are kind of working day in and day out, and they actually don't know what is the end goal. I mean, what is the 3-year plan, 5-year plan? Do they want to exit the business? Yeah, and if that long-term vision is not clear, then the actions you take short-term will never make sense, and it will never be coordinated. So, just to kind of go back to our Indian philosophy, look at somebody like, say, Ramana Maharshi, right? The question is, who am I? Right? So every organization and every founder has to answer that question. Who am I? Am I a person who wants to kind of keep a small setup but earn a good profit? Okay, and jab tak chala, and then you forget about exit valuations and all that. The other thought, and this is called a lifestyle entrepreneur, right? Who's kind of wanting to keep a work-life balance, and they will earn enough, and they want to choose who their clients are, etc. The other approach is to say, I want to scale up, right? I want to institutionalize, when of course the level of effort is slightly different. And eventually, even if the profits are low today, I want to eventually scale it to a point that it becomes attractive for somebody to acquire me out, right? So I think these are two very different approaches, right? And so what is it that a founder wants from his company as an individual? He's at the foundation of everything, right? So, well, obviously the entity and the founder are two different organisms. They're two different beings, right? But ultimately, as an owner of the company, the personal aspiration of the founder of what they want from the organization is very important to kind of get at, right? So helping the founder think through, because they're also not clear, right? They're kind of coming to you with some ideas. So this is a sounding board advice that is really required as a friend, possibly as a mentor, to help them to kind of clear their views, because this answer cannot be found in any textbook. This cannot be found in a YouTube video, right? It's a process of discovery. You're going to put a mirror. Sabke paas apna apna mirror hai. All of us have got a mirror, but that mirror becomes clouded with dust and dirt over a period of time, and we are not able to see ourselves. What is it that we want? So the role of a virtual CFO is to clean that mirror, right? Answers cannot be given by us. Answers have to be discovered by the individual concerned. The role of the virtual CFO is to help the entrepreneur to discover those answers within themselves, right? So it starts with that. Yeah, and this is like, I would say the first 1 month, 2 months typically is because these are not things that you can kind of sort out typically in say one sitting, right? Because the founder also requires time to, you're going to ask him questions. What do you say, a founder who wants real value out of this exercise will take time to think about these questions and think about the answers and then come back to you. And it's a process of engagement to kind of complete that. But once this phase is over, right, it very quickly moves to execution. Because as I said, if you're going to keep talking strategy every time to owner of say a 20 crore company, they will not see the value in that either. Because beyond a point, in anybody will say that look, अभी समझ में आ गया क्या करना है, अब बताओ किसको कैसे करना है, ठीक है? And generally in this segment, people don't know how to do it. So they're expecting you to kind of show how to do it, right? So which is why I'm saying that while that strategy aspect could be useful in the first 2 weeks, first 2 months maybe, beyond that, I think we'll have to very quickly get into the execution. And so that's where the litmus test of the virtual CFO also is, क्योंकि advisory के लिए तो कोई भी कर सकता है, right? आप ये कर दो, वो कर दो, लेकिन आप एक बार करके दिखाएंगे ना उनको, that's when their mind also opens up, right? Otherwise, it's all on a piece of paper. Yeah.
So what do you mean when you say that the strategy aspect should be out of the scope? Should it be in the scope, out of the scope? How do we deal with that? Because client's first question would be, how would you help me strategically? I don't want you as an accountant. So that question keeps on hitting me, that what do I say or what do I deliver to him so that the strategy aspect or of his, maybe his concern can be resolved.
You want me to take that, Nishchit?
Yes, just on the strategy aspect only.
So I think so the components of, say, what we call a strategy, right, is one, defining what the entrepreneur wants out of his company, personally and for his family. Second is then crafting maybe a 3-year plan. I think 5-year plans have become too long term now. I think given the current environment that we're living in, even a 1-year thing itself looks very far out. So let's say a 3-year plan, okay, to kind of say, and this is not a financial plan alone, it's a business plan. Right, looking at how they're going to maximize revenues, what is going to be the go-to-market strategy, what is their client segment, what is the cost of business acquisition, what is the lifetime value of a consumer, right? What are the channels through which you're going to go there? Okay, all these become part of the 3-year business plan. The next thing I would probably do is to maybe create a SWOT of the organization, right? To say today, where do we stand? The next thing, very, very important, I think, is the org design. Who are the people? What does the organization chart look like today? And in order to get to my 3-year goal, what is the kind of organization that I will require in say 6 months time to be able to implement that vision? Then the question comes of resource, right? As to what is the total capital required and how am I going to kind of raise that capital? Is it going to be debt? Is it equity? If it's equity, do I put it myself? Do I get it from friends and family? Do I go to a VC fund? So these are the components of a plan. See, I think on the scope, I don't have a very strong view, right? Because it obviously depends from case to case, right? But in any mandate, to me, it's, let's say if you're going to go and negotiate a 12-month mandate, I think we have to tell the client upfront that the first 6 weeks is going to be largely on the strategy crafting, right? He should not expect any magic on the ground, right? It's like going to say a cardio specialist and tell the cardio specialist to start operating me now. The cardio specialist will first ask you for a set of reports, right? And he requires time to study it. And then he will prescribe the next course of action. He'll put you through an ECG, 2D echo, whatever, and then say ki aapko ye karna hai. Only then he will admit you and start operating you if it is required, right? So similarly, coming to us, the virtual CFO is also like going to a cardio specialist. So you have to upfront tell the client that, look, the expectation cannot be that aap aage to matlab magic ho jayega. This lot of clients have got this thing, you know. तो खुद तो नहीं करेंगे 10, 15, 20 साल कुछ नहीं होगा, right? But moment they come to us, they feel कि some some earth-shattering results are going to be delivered. So you have to first sort that out, right? To kind of manage the expectation to say if it's a 12-month project, first say 1.5 months, and I'm only saying 1.5 months. It could be 1 month, 2 months from case to case. Is going to be an area where you and I sit down and work out what the plan. And I will never call it a strategy because clients don't see value in it. I will tell them this is an implementation plan that I'm going to work with you. कि आपको आगे के 10 महीने में क्या मिलेगा, let us sit down and define that, right? And then start the mandate.
Yeah, sorry, there was some problem with my network. So I get your point, sir. What you meant to say was, I remember of a famous quote, like we should have, every person should have 2 kinds of tongue. One in his mouth, the tongue in his mouth, and one under his feet, that is actually implementing whatever we say. So that is the role that the CFO should play. The second question is to Sandhya ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to know from you that what about CFOs managing the team? How does that work? Does the client expect, like, or does the organization expect that we should train them? Or how do we handle a team as a CFO?
Okay, so Nishchit, actually I'm from industry and have been in this role of CFO for some quite long time and been part of it. So I'll talk it from a role perspective, and then I will touch up base upon virtual CFO, what is expected. So no organization is complete without its people. If an individual has to grow, it has to train its people, because people management becomes a big issue. So training these people is equally important. Because if we create a caliber and qualitative people management, it really helps in terms of growth. So even if you look at McKinsey's survey they have done, those organizations have deep tech services or based startup strategies. These organizations have around more than 40% which people come from high-end organizations or something, or they are trained that way. So in-house, whether trainings is equally important if you really want to have a good kind of resources. Otherwise, the whole setup will fall flat. People are the core. So yes, training becomes important. So how do you train them? You can train them. It is always most of the time on-job training. So you need to expose them to cross-functional projects or programs, classroom trainings, because you can't expect somebody learned everything and come back, because thanks to the COVID environment, we all learned a different thing. Earlier, we never thought we will do certain things in a different way. Now we are habituated to doing technology. We never thought that we would be actually having a technological virtual seminars or Yogesh, I think the ways you guys are conducting, nobody thought. So learning traits become very important. That is what is the emphasis, that training is equally important. People need to be brought up to the mark along with the changing environment, regulations. So yes, training becomes very important. It is part of the KRA. People management is a part of a KRA. Now, regarding virtual CFOs, if I'm an organization which is going to hire a CFO, and with a specific services which I'm looking at, whether it is supporting the CFO in terms of taxation or setting up other processes, I would expect the virtual CFO to train my people. Because end of the day, there has to be some time that I am not dependent on the virtual CFO every time. Everything time I can't keep on dialing him and asking him, kya hua? So dependency factors. So if it is built, operate and transfer model, if that is what a virtual CFO is dealing with, this kind of an entrepreneurs, it is expected that he trains the people on the ground. But that does not mean he is giving away that fine traits are there, no, of a CFO. That cannot be passed. But if we can have a balance between what we are training, so certain activities, processes, yes, they should be trained, and then only it adds to value to the person. As an entrepreneur, I would not like to see the services of the virtual CFO as a hindrance to my business, my dependency. I should go to him for his knowledge, not for filing my GST return. So training becomes equally important, whether if you are somebody is interested in getting into corporate and doing a full-fledged 100% job as a CFO or providing a virtual service. Training people is must.
So training should be part of the KRA of the virtual CFO.
So then you can decide what is the balance. They can have a balance between what they are going to train. That can be put up as a part of the agreements what we have. So when we put up the services in terms of the 12 months contract, what are the things that the entrepreneur will be able to do it in-house periodically, where there would be supervisory role. It helps us also, no, because a virtual CFO is a niche project, right? He is a niche businessman. He is not there to manage the mundane activities. So that kind of things actually should be trained. So if the entrepreneurs also feels happy that there is a validation to me.
Correct. And the work gets done faster.
Absolutely.
People are synchronized.
We are there to propel the business and help it to grow. We are not there to create hindrances and create a monopoly that, okay, you can't work without me. That is an object.
Next question. Next question would be to Dinesh sir. Dinesh sir, result-oriented approach. With respect to the result-oriented approach that a virtual CFO should have, can you share a few examples of how this can be achieved? Like, what do you mean by result-oriented? Any specific deliverables that we can give as a virtual CFO?
So first, I will cover a little bit about what Sandhya spoke and what Venkat spoke. Venkat spoke about, your question to Venkat was on whether, what about strategy and all that. When you are dealing with in the profession of a virtual CFO, strategy is a inbuilt part of that offering. I mean, you cannot separate strategy in that particular role, because at the end of the day, in end-to-end delivery game, strategy is part of it. Okay, one. Second part, what Sandhya spoke was basically virtual CFO is a business enabler. So what she's talking about, he is not typical that traditional role wo return file kar diya ya accounts final kar diya. No, it is not. I would put it in another pattern. In a doctor profession, there is a physician. there is a cardiologist, as Venkat mentioned. So when you are going to a cardiologist, it's a very different skill set. I mean, it's a very thought orientation is very different out there versus you go to a physician, he will have a very different mindset, or a eye specialist, he will have a very different mindset. Okay, so the overall offering itself is very, very different in terms of skill set. Okay, now coming to the specific examples on result orientation and all. I think the real test in this particular case when the rubber meets the road, and let me explain on two areas, three areas basically. One on, let us say one business is having, too many people are leaving the organization and they are not sticking to organization for a longer period. The typical pattern which I see in an entrepreneur is बॉस मेरे लोग छोड़ करके जा रहे हैं और मैं उनको रोक नहीं पा रहा हूं, and the other person is offering them more salary or more better work and therefore they are leaving. The offering, the one kind of solution in this case, I will give you an example is, do you have a very effective incentive program into your company? Does this incentive program gives two aspects? One, where people are made to do more business and they are able to earn as good as their salary. Do you have that kind of incentive program in the company or not? And if you don't have it, then this kind of a role gets into that incentive formulation part that one can offer to its employees, and that result into transformation of a business that people are sticking to the company and business multiplies over a long period of time. That's on business part. Let us say on an inventory part, you have 100 item in inventory, and out of 100, 80 out of two item out of 100 item are very, very very important, and they are kind of basically determining they are basically significant, playing a role into your taking your revenue high in terms of your finished goods inventory, right? So what you will do is you will make that particular 2% or 5% part more than what it is required to serve your consumer, and that may help in delivering the result what it takes. While there are about 50% part for which you randomly getting the orders, probably you will turn to make to order pattern in that particular scenario. So what kind of situation you are into, which business it is, you are offering solutions basis that. I come from a medical device sector, pharma sector, jahan pe product gets expired in 6 months. So if you happen to make the product without thinking through that the expiry is in 6 months, you will end up losing whole money, whether it is a raw material, whether it is a finished goods. So when the situation is coming in, you need to tailor your solution to meet that particular business demand is the core. Okay. The third part, I would give it a very common problem in accounts receivable. सब जगह पैसा recover नहीं कर पा रहे हैं लोग. So how you are fixing that credit policy? What kind of industry you are into? It's only you can sell it in advance by giving some cash discount, or you can fix a credit limit for particular state which is risky. You can fix a credit limit for particular type of business. So one can get into customize the solution into the kind of business you are into. So result oriented approach is always there into this role. And the litmus test is actually when the rubber meets the road. So you are going to face the situation day in, day out, and you got to offer the solutions when the need comes in.
Hello. So there are three solutions that we also discussed. One is incentive, like inventory and accounts receivables. The examples definitely solve the purpose as to what results can be achieved for them. The next question is for Venkat sir. Venkat sir, what to do as virtual CFO to keep a long-term association with the client? How do we be associated on a long-term basis with them?
Yeah, so I'll possibly answer that by just building on to what Dinesh just explained. See, I have a very simple view on this. Okay, the client will keep you as long as it is making business sense for the client to keep you. Okay, so I mean, this is not to say that personal relationships don't matter. Okay, but end of the day, this is business, right? So if you're continuously delivering value, I think a client will continue to retain you. Yeah. So Dinesh gave us 3 examples. I'll give you some more examples, right, of what could be done, right? So let's say, so just to take the DSO example, and let's say this company is a 50 crore company, and if you have been able to say reduce the DSO from maybe 2 months of revenue to maybe 1 month of revenue, right? So from 60 days, you brought it down to 30 days. This is not just by chasing up some old customers, etc., but you tightened your processes and probably you incentivized your sales team on the basis of cash collections rather than just booking some sales orders, right? Very simple method, okay, that a CFO can adopt. Now that 30 days saving in cash flow is substantial, right? That 30 days is 1 by 12 of 100 crores, which is, let's say, about 8 crore of saving is what you delivered in cash flow terms. Now this you will have to go and tell the client, कि boss मैंने आपका 8 crore बचाया, ठीक है? Now if I am saving you 8 crores, then what is the fee that you will be willing to give me? He'll give you 20 lakh, 30 lakh, 40 lakh, something reasonable, right? You can't say that you work with me for 5 lakh. Yeah. Similarly, you look at areas of a lot of e-commerce companies, right? So let's take some new age examples. So we work with an online, it's a both brick and mortar and it's a hybrid, both brick and mortar and online cake shop. They have got reconciliations with Zomato. Okay, so Zomato sends us statements. There are thousands of orders that get delivered every day. Now, when we started doing the reconciliation, it was a completely manual effort. So 6 log बैठे हैं trying to reconcile with Zomato. They are not able to reconcile in a whole month. We've introduced an RPA bot over there, which does the job in 1 hour. With 6 people, we used to take a whole month and still not do properly. When we did the reconciliation, we found a 1% revenue leakage, where as per our records and as per Zomato records, there was a 1% revenue leakage. Now, obviously, if you plug this revenue leakage, it's a straight flow through into the bottom line. Okay, again, 50 crore company, आपने 1% अगर revenue optimization किया वहाँ पे, you are going to save 50 lakhs. Correct? So these examples can go on and on, right? Let's say you're doing purchases. Now that manual purchases, you move it to a reverse auctioning system. Okay, you are able to save, let's say, 2% on purchase cost. Now in a manufacturing concern, material is obviously the highest cost. If you save 2% gross margin, it is straight flow through into your EBITDA, right? Or let's say your client is working, your client is working with large customers and they have not explored invoice discounting as an option, right? Because your risk profile of a customer, maybe the bank will say, I will charge you 10.5% interest. But if you're going to do invoice discounting, the bank is taking a risk on your client's customer. The rate could be as low as 7.5%. तो आपने 3% ब्याज बचा लिया client का, उसको आप quantify कीजिए, right? So you keep quantifying, right? So as a virtual CFO, we have to keep quantifying the saving we're delivering to a client, right? And if you keep doing this consistently and every quarter you'll have to sit down. I mean, don't make the mistake of going to them after 2 years and saying that that is bad business strategy for you, right? You have to go back every quarter and make sure the client is understanding. This saving is largely, see, nothing happens fully by the virtual CFO. आपने वो काम कराया होगा by the client, but still that is your initiative because before you came, the client was not getting that benefit. So a good portion of whatever is the savings that I just explained is on account of your intervention. If you're able to keep going back to the client and telling them every quarter, कि this I have saved for you, you will understand. या तो client मना कर देगा, बोलेगा कि नहीं आपने नहीं कुछ भी काम नहीं किया, then you're working with the wrong client. Correct? Then you should get out of that client immediately. Don't stay in hope. But if the client agrees, yes, this is because of your intervention, then you have a basis for your continuity in the company and for a fee increase. Right? So I think short answer to your question about how to maintain long-term relationship is to keep delivering in the short term. हर quarter में आप short term deliver करते जाएंगे, आपको automatically long term relationship बन जाएगा.
Nice way to put it is the best way to deal with your client, keep in relationship with your client long term is to keep on delivering short term.
Yeah, see, it's a very simple funda, a very commonsensical thing. In my own business, I don't know what is going to happen in 3 months, 6 months. Okay, now how do I know what is going to happen in the client's business? Right. So I think, while fully appreciate the need for long-term planning, etc. But when it comes to quantification of benefits, nobody has got the stamina See, today it is IPL ka zamana, right? It's T20. Everybody understands business is like a test match, but you have to play that 20 overs, right? So you have to keep giving the low-hanging fruit to the client. So see, clients' patience levels are very low because first of all, they don't understand accounting and finance. But एक चीज सबको समझ में आता है कि पैसा बचाया तो ये बंदा मेरे लिए valuable है. That everybody gets, right? So you have to make sure that you keep it simple and make sure that you keep giving them those savings on a consistent basis and don't take a time span of more than 3 months is what is at least my experience and recommendation.
Yeah. Okay, so the next part will be dealing with certain fundamentals of virtual CFO services. There are, in a broad level, there are many fundamentals. I just read out them for you. That is, one is virtual CFO should have domain expertise. He should be a senior professional. He should be able to deal with people, process, strategy. He should have good exposure to, he should be technology led. He should be template driven. There should be some fixed pattern in which he works. Geographical collaboration. He could provide a geographical collaboration between various states and provide a pan-India service as well. He must help in business building. He must work as a coach, also as a captain. The BOT model, build, operate, and transfer model would also be a basic fundamentals of a virtual CFO. Questions related to fundamentals. In this part, I would like Sandhya ma'am to come forward, and what important is domain, how important is domain specific expertise while providing a virtual CFO services? Can we work despite of this? Like if we want to deliver multiple clients, is it also okay that if we don't have certain domain expertise, can we still take up that assignment? What is your take on it?
So I think I'll answer this in two parts. One is what is domain expertise, what we is, and can we provide services even without having a domain expertise? So I think being a chartered accountant, we are expert in our profession as a chartered accountants. We have the domain expertise already in terms of understanding the financials, the auditing part, the compliance part, governance, which is also one of the critical aspects to it. Now, other domain expert, what we mean here is looking at industry specific expertise, understanding the industry the way that is. I think that is what you the question relates to. So yes. So if you're into consulting firm, it is not possible that somebody has done the industry 100%. Say, for example, I have an experience of a diversified portfolio. I'm from a conglomerate, financial services, pharmaceutical. So since this is generated over a period of time, having said that, it is not a stop or roadblock for anybody. If he wants to provide services to somebody in, say, e-commerce zone or pension segment, we are. So if somebody is able to understand and interested to does his homework, so I don't think domain expertise or having the knowledge of the industry will act as a bottleneck, because there are a lot of people they are there who would definitely, you can always collaborate with them, get that kind of an information. If tomorrow somebody gets an assignment in pension segment, does not mean he has to spend 25 years in pension segment or 5 years in pension segment, or somebody like a setup like me who has set up the entire business for my company. So you need not have that, but definitely you can acquire the domain, industry specific knowledge. There is that is required when you are dealing with any customer or client, because he is asking, when he hires a virtual CFO, he is actually expecting certain level of expertise from you, certain level of homework that needs to be done when you come on board. If there is no homework, then probably if I go and sit tomorrow and talk about something about training industry, I will not be able to, because otherwise I need to do some homework. So you can't just go take up your bag and walk up to him and tell him, okay, I know this. So homework is important. You may not have performed in that industry, but if you are collaborating with the right kind of a people and doing your homework in that, I think that is possible. A person cannot be expert in everything. Then he becomes God. That's a different thing. We are, I think C Institute, our curriculum tells a very nice thing. We may not be expert in everything, but we know where to find the answers. And I think that is the USP of being a chartered accountant. And I carry it as a badge of honor that I'm a chartered accountant. I understand things better than anybody else, whether it be any kind of sort of person else. So domain expertise can be learned. It is necessary. To what a degree we are able to bring that up, collaborating with the right resources or learning ourselves, that is depends upon the individual how he or she drives.
And ma'am, also, like, since we know that you're gonna leave early today, so I'll ask one more question, which is actually the part of the next section, but I would like to hear it from you only.
Yeah.
That is how to develop a CFO service, and if there are certain audience that they are now servicing in industry and want to leave the industry and go start the virtual CFO service. Is there any guidance that you would like to give them?
Okay. So I think other than I think solvers like Venkat, Dinesh are already on top of the games and doing it. They are there to guide. Having said that, I can just share my experience or what is my take. So say for example, tomorrow I decide to take up a leave and decide to become a virtual CFO. So I think what I feel here is very important qualitative technique. What I qualitative I feel, you need to have an intrapreneurial mindset. While as an entrepreneur, I'm running my business. I have an entrepreneurial mindset when I run my business. When I'm dealing with a client, I need to partner with him and show him that intrapreneurial mindset when I am dealing with him. Because there I'm partner with him, he trusts me. When I'm doing a strategy, he relies on me. He looks for insight for me. So if that connect we are able to bring that entrepreneurial guidance, we are able to put it that, I think all other things falls in place, whether it is a domain expertise, how we are packaging ourselves, how we are marketing, how we are partnering with him. He needs to see you as an insider. He need not see you as somebody who has come, picked up his bag, discussed kiya or bhag gaya. Then you are not partnering with him. You are more just providing a service. You need to be invested in that role. And this investment comes when you feel proud that the business is growing. Wherever when Dinesh Ji's business gets featured in Shark Tank, he feels that proud that he has invested in it. It is his business. So I think that one quality is equally very important. I feel for anybody, those who are into practice and who wants to come into industry, for them as well as those who are in industry wants to start their business this way. You need to be invested. So the concept of being an employee, being a service provider, these are something which would be there, but what connects with the business will be the key, and with the entrepreneur will help you drive the results.
Excellent. Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, so we'll move ahead. The next part.
Nishchit, if you could allow me, thank you so much. The panels, I've really enjoyed listening to Venkat and Dinesh. Nishchit and Yogesh, you guys are doing a fantastic job. I kindly seek your permission to exit because I just have another commitment. So that is the reason. But I would look forward to connect with you individually and in future. Definitely. Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, I just continue with. Sorry, I just had a bad network. The type of engagement that we can deliver as a CFO, it could be on-site, off-site, and also hybrid. On-site would mean that we go there and be at the client's premises. Off-site would mean that we deliver such services from our own CA office, and hybrid would be maybe sometimes visit the client premises, and sometimes you could deliver the other services from your own office as well. So the question is to Dinesh sir, which type of engagement is more prevalent, sir? What do you think? And specifically seeing the scenario like for a CA firm, like a general CA.
So, Nishchit, I think this will be case by case need, what client is expecting in this. But if I answer this question personally, it is more of a hybrid. So you do something on-site, something you do off-site, but that connect with the client and its his team is required in this particular role. I mean, if you are completely offline, at times that that you feel that connect with the client or its business is not there. So in my view, I most of the time I go for hybrid mode, because you cannot be completely on site or off site either. I most of the time I opt for hybrid mode. Again, since I deal with the startup and all, it will vary from startup to startup and all. So if the startup is based very small, based out of Bangalore, and he doesn't have that, he can't take that cost of traveling from one place to another place, then it can be a completely online scenario. So it will be like need based, but personally I prefer hybrid.
Okay, then. Nice. So there are three types of thing, and hybrid is what is preferred. Now we'll go on towards a quick break again. Yogesh with me will interact with the audience. We'll take up a few questions with the audience, and also let's see who wins the T-shirt. Yogesh,
Yeah.
please.
So I'll first run the reel.
Hello, this is Nishchit Shetty, and I am on a mission to empower chartered accountants. In the ethical code, the profession of accountancy is recognized for its objectives to work to the highest professional standards, achieve the highest level of performance, and meet the needs of the public. In the code of professional ethics, one of the provisions is securing business only through permitted means, that is, through partners, employees, and other chartered accountants. Let's call this way of securing the work as ethical referrals. What is a good referral? Number one, opportunity to do work. Number two, not a guaranteed sales. As a chartered accountant and a good networker, you must pass referrals effectively. Here's a way to do that. First, listen to the client properly. Understand the technicalities of the requirement. Second, if you do not practice in that area and are willing to pass referrals to another CA, tell the potential client that you know someone who specializes in the area of the client requirement. Give them the business card and ask them their business cards. Ask them if the other CA can call them directly. What happens if we get a bad referral? Tell the CA who gave you the bad referral. We have to educate each other. People join networks for referrals and stay there for a referral. Many have improved on their speaking skills also by growing their business by passing ethical referrals. Wish you growth in your profession.
Now we are going to continue with our own quiz part. Next question that we have is, we have the same table where we have all the figures present. This is going to be a 40-second timeline. So what is the company's current ratio? We are left out with another 30 seconds to answer for this question. Last 10 seconds. So time's up. The correct answer is 2.1:1. Let's see the leaderboard. We have Shetty on the head as a leader. So moving on to the next question. Earlier we were talking about current ratio. Now we are talking about quick ratio. What is company's quick ratio? Come on, guys, come on. We got 4 responses till now. Okay, great going. 9 responses. Come on, we have to participate, guys. This is the most interactive part where we can understand that whatever we have done in the session is what we have understood or not. Okay. And the correct answer is 0.7. The leadership board. Okay, we have a shuffle in the leadership board. Now Shubham is leading the quiz chart. So we will come up with this can be the last question for this particular session. And this question will decide who wins the gift. Last 40 seconds, guys. Last 25 seconds. Good going. We have like 15 responses. Maybe because of the timing, we have quite less number of responses in the earlier question. Since we have more times here, there were good number of responses. Okay, so last 5 seconds. Okay, 6.7 is the answer that everybody is given. So 10 is the answer. For like understanding this, you can separately contact us. We can actually help you out in letting you know how it has been derived. So now the leadership board is Shubham Goyal. Okay, congratulations, Shubham Goyal. We will separately contact you. Nishchit specially is going to separately contact you, and he might give you the gift in kind of this T-shirt that I'm wearing, where we are supporting something called as proud to be chartered accountant. So we have initiated a hashtag called hashtag proud to be chartered accountant, and we have printed some T-shirts. So we are going to give that as a gift hamper to you. Thank you, guys. That's it from my role. Handing over to you, Nishchit.
Thank you so much, Yogesh. It's a nice initiative. Hashtag proud to be a chartered accountant. I don't know if you guys can see, even I am wearing that T-shirt, and even Yogesh is wearing those T-shirts. Lovely. So we are moving on to the third part. After that, we will take up a few questions from the audience, and towards the end, we may also play a game if the time permits. So the next question is to Venkat sir. Venkat sir, now we are going deep into the subject matter and discussing about building a CFO, virtual CFO practice. So the audience here would want to know, how does a virtual CFO organization look like? How do we execute the practice?
Yeah, I think so. Our learnings on this, Nishchit, have been that we took a path of trying to scale up. Okay, so we wanted to make the organization which is not founder dependent. So first 5 years, Deepak was the other co-founder at Practus, and we were involved with every single mandate, both on the business development as well as the execution of the mandates. Right. What became very clear is when we got to a point where probably we were dealing with maybe 30, 40 clients, and we were obviously working very hard to service those clients, we came to the conclusion that we've got two choices. Okay, either we can continue to work with 30 clients and look for the right 30 clients, okay, and try and maximize our revenue and profit out of that. Or if you have to build an organization which can service 300 clients, then you'll have to clearly institutionalize and recruit. Okay, so we took the second approach. This is not to say that that is the right approach or anything like that. I'm only calling out that somewhere while starting this journey, you have to be clear about which route you want to take. Right? So we were very convinced, and we that maybe into 2015 is when we took our first round of funding. So we are invested in where VC invested, and I think we probably remain India's only VC invested CFO service firm. And any VC will tell you that they are not interested in making an investment unless there is a significant scale up in revenue and profit that you can assure them, right? So once you go down this route, then it's a path of no return, right? I mean, you have to find a way of continuously scaling up. So I just thought I'll build the context, right? Because our way of doing the delivery and executing mandates may not necessarily be everybody's way of doing it. So we have built we learned a little bit from the Big Four experience. See, one of the things in Big Fours is that the partners are very powerful, right? They kind of manage both the business development and they're also responsible somewhere for the overall execution of the mandate. But we're also seeing a trend, you know, when the partner leaves, they take away a lot of clients and they take away a lot of people, right? So, which to me, then for the firm, it's a bit of a loss, right? Because you've invested so much of time and effort. And when it is time for the payback, then people leave, critical people leave along with critical clients. So we said we will build a matrix organization where we have a separate business development team and we have a separate delivery team. Now, so that way there is a little bit better checks and balance in the system. And the business development teams are required to kind of sit in on periodic reviews with the client. It should not happen that, you know, they've sold a mandate and they disappear. Okay, so they have to be part of monthly conversations with all our clients, right? Now on the delivery organization, what we have done is that we have built a tiered structure where we call them an engagement partner. These people are responsible for about anywhere between 20 to 40 clients each. Each person manages between 20 to 50 staff, 50-60 staff in some portfolios, the larger portfolios. Yeah, and below that, there are something called engagement leaders who are responsible for 5-6 clients. And then we've got engagement managers who are responsible for a single client. Yeah. Now, this org is obviously it's evolved over a period of time. You know, probably the company's first engagement manager and engagement leader would have been Deepak and myself, right? Because at that time, the company lacked the scale. But once it begins to pick scale, you have to be very careful not to stretch yourself very thin. See, because for us as service providers, at the most, what can go wrong is our P&L. Okay, but we are in a business of taking care of the client's P&L. Right, and if because of our lack of time, if something goes wrong with the client's business, then their impact on their value could be much higher, right? And we have seen practical examples in our own business where we almost missed out on doing a hedging strategy for a client about 6 years back. It was an agri commodity business, and that decision, if it was not taken just at the nick of time, we took the decision. If we hadn't taken it, it would have resulted into loss of crores to the client, right? And the reason why it went to the last minute is because we didn't have time to kind of focus on the client. So that is very dangerous. You know, it's like, for example, if you're going to be doing the operation yourself, you cannot be in 3 operation theaters at the same time, right? Then chances are somebody will die, right? So you cannot take a risk with the client's business, right? So this scaling up, while it is a very exciting, looks like a very exciting path on the outside, I think it comes with the downside. Because हम खुद करते हैं ना, so we are always in control. Right, you know exactly what we're doing, right? Because you know the client, you understand the context, you know the business, you are able to advise it correctly. But the moment you have a team, right, they may not necessarily be fully aligned, okay, to your understanding of the client, right? And that's where unless you have very strong project management, and we've got very tight project management systems, we use a tool called Scoro to manage all our projects, and a very strong review mechanism. It's called a review cadence with the client. So every week we talk to all our clients, at least at an engagement partner level, because unless you do that, chances are that quality will suffer, right? So to me, the execution discipline, like one of the targets that we have taken on, it's a promise we make to all our clients, is that the ROI that I explained to you a little bit earlier in the session, we calculate the ROI and show it to the client every quarter. Right now, if it is not shown, okay, then a red flag goes up in our system. Yeah, because then you're not communicating to the client. Similarly, we also take on 3-month targets. So sitting, let's say by end of June, we would have agreed the September quarter targets with our clients to say these are the KPIs that we will deliver as a virtual CFO, right? So one part is managing expectations to tell the client what you will be doing. And second is to put a weekly or a fortnightly mechanism to ensure that that is actually happening, right? What is very dangerous in this business is to say that अगर client को problem होगा तो हमको बताएगा and then I will react to it. That is the worst way to deal with a crisis. Yeah, because our job is to make sure a crisis does not happen in the first place. Then it is easy to manage the relationship. You are on top of the mandate, your life will be peaceful. But if you take on too many mandates and then take a management by exception type of a thing, ki whoever is shouting, I'll go and manage him. That is a short way of both spoiling your reputation, losing the client eventually, and of course there will be loss of money because you will find it harder to attract clients in the future. Yeah. So I think the review mechanism, if you are not involved yourself, I think the review mechanism is absolutely critical of what your team is doing, and do it in a joint call with the client so that there is one version of truth. Otherwise, your team will tell you something, client will tell you something else. It will be all over the place. So you have to have a joint call to make sure that is happening right. And second is the ROI calculation should be very clear with the client every quarter. I think if these two things are done, then I think chances of failure are low. But having said that, we are a services business. We are people dependent. It is not an algorithm, right? कि आपने कुछ यहाँ पे button दबा दिया तो कुछ automatic you will get an answer. It is never like that, right? And people are dynamic. You will have attrition. Trained people will go. You'll be forced to recruit new people. So services business are like this, in terms of quality. It goes, say, between. It can go anywhere. If let's say 0 to 10 and 10 is the best quality, you could have situations where it kind of goes from 5 to 10 at different points in time. But the mark of a good business, nobody has got a problem with the variability of service quality. But your down, which is there, it cannot be 5. Your down will have to be 8, 8.5. Even in your worst performance, if you are about 8, 8.5, then you will be able to do a good job of retaining clients, right? So how to manage that? So 10 kabhi ho hi jata hai business mein, right? Because you put effort, your team will put effort, you will get to that 10. But when the team is not there and the right people are not there and it goes down, it should not slip below a certain threshold, right? So how you institute processes to make sure that it doesn't go below 8, 8.5, even a worst case scenario is where your smarts as the business owner of a virtual CFO company really comes into play.
Nice one. So not being founder dependent, departmentalizing, reviewing the quality, put up a proper mechanism to review the quality is the key takeaways, I think, from that. Similar kind of question to Dinesh sir. Let us also look at how traditional CA firms are practicing. They want to enter into this space. What is your advice to smaller traditional firms who wants to build this virtual CFO practice?
So on a smaller firms, Nishchit, my advice out there will be to collaborate. Most of the CA firms operate with smaller teams. That skill set among the team to deliver this kind of service may not be available to full depth. Okay, and if that is not available, then one need to collaborate. That is point number one. Point number two is it is all about building your team. I mean, and when you talk about building your team, it is a cross-functional, cross-specialization team. So one could be good in supply chain, one could be good in analytics, one could be good in PPT, one could be good in business orientation. Everything. It has to be cross-functional team which is able to attend that particular mandate. So my advice out here would be to have the collaboration among the firms. If you don't have the skill set, then collaborate with the firms where this skill set exists, because you will not be able to build this team overnight. It takes time to build the team, and particularly the problem becomes more evident in tier 2 towns or towns like Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi. The skill sets are available, but when you come to second layer town, the skill sets are not available to render this kind of a service. So you need to collaborate. You need to have that approach that you as a team you are approaching to a client. So which needs a far more bigger change in the way or the traditional firms operate. The way traditional firm operates, they everything remain within a firm. The whole one client they are serving from what staff they have. I think this will not be possible in this particular case. You got to collaborate across the firms and get the right skill set, then you will be able to retain the client. As Venkat said, it is easy to get the client. It is difficult to retain the client. So if you want to retain a client for a longer term, you need to have that skill set within your firm. It will be my advice.
I think Nishchit dropped out.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry. Collaboration was the key takeaway that we took from that answer. Okay, so now we will again interact with the audience. Audience, do you have any question to ask speakers? We take up a few questions here. So you can raise your hands.
Actually, many people have raised their question in Slido. So they've typed out there. We'll just read it out for the users. So Paresh Voraji has asked, virtual CFO is a novel idea, and how far you are successful in your idea, and what are the initial problems you have come across? What is your views about the same? So this is the question that Paresh Voraji has asked. So, like Dinesh, if you want to answer, you can answer.
Yeah. So let me answer this. In terms of, I think the biggest problem in this case is to make the use case. I mean, whether that CFO service is required or not required, and to create that particular need, or it's a creation of the market itself, is the biggest issue one faces in this particular service. So that is first where you need to establish the need. Second thing in this particular case is that are you so the building up the team and the client expectations are varying over a period of time, and to build up a team really takes time. So that's a second issue in this particular case. Third, when I'm dealing with the most of the people, once they start using this service, the client understands that what is the difference in this particular service and why they need it. I think most of the time, the entrepreneurs are smart people, so they actually understand whether they need this service or not, and they are able to figure that particular out. So the need is there in the market. You need to create that particular concept, whether it is required or not required. Most of the time, people are not aware whether they require this, and that's where the whole effort goes. And the point number 2 is creation of the team, which will be able to deliver this particular kind of a service. Could be initial, speed breaker somewhere.
Okay, fine. So moving on to the next question. So next question is by Shubham Goyal. He says he belongs to Kurukshetra, Haryana. So how could he approach forward becoming a virtual CFO? I guess collaboration is one of those answers that Dinesh has already mentioned. Like, sir, if you want to answer, Venkat sir, if you want to highlight some point on this question.
Yeah, I think, see, frankly, location doesn't matter. Yeah, there are local businesses everywhere, right, including Kurukshetra, and business people, their behavior does not change based on location, right? It's like being a mom. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you're a mom in US or in India or in Bombay or in Bhopal, right? Moms behave in a certain way, right? They got an instinct which doesn't change. Broadly, it doesn't change, right? Similarly, business people, their instinct never changes. I'm yet to see a business owner who says ki profit improvement is not an focus area for him, right? So there will be relevant services that can be rendered even in Kurukshetra. I think the best thing that's happened for all of us, right, in the last 2.5 years is that the market has become global now. So because of COVID, everything has become virtual. So we are no longer, I think, bound by the limitations of geography, right? So we entered the US market, and 4 years back, maybe 3 years back, and frankly, I'm telling you that the kind of work that we Indians can provide, it is mind blowing if you view it from the US standpoint, right? So frankly, sky is the limit. we have to really grab this entire hybrid working model and entire digitization as a massive opportunity where we can spread our wings. How does it matter if you're in Kurukshetra? I mean, not only India, I would say the whole world is available to you. I know so many CAs who are doing outsourced accounting work for a bunch of US CPA firms. It's a very lucrative practice, right? Yeah, so I don't think, to me, frankly, the location is not really a factor in this. It may take a little bit more time because you may have to build connections. I mean, but that is the same, right? I mean, even if you're in Bombay, you still have to build connections when you've got to build a practice.
Okay, fine. So there are two more questions. I'll ask this to Dinesh and last will be for Venkat sir. So next question is, are there any limits on this on how many companies that you can handle as a CFO? Are there any scalability issues there you can find as far as limit is considered? Some anonymous questions.
So I think interesting question. Actually, there is no limit. Venkat spoke about from 15 to 300, whatever, right number. It depends upon how you are structuring your organization, what kind of team you have available, what kind of skill set you have available. I think you can go to any number of clients, provided you have the team behind you, which is able to deliver the mandate. So it depends upon your organization creation ability, and are you able to delegate to your team member? Are your team members trained enough? Is the whole thing which will go behind what number of clients you can take it. I think sky is the limit, boss. I think I wouldn't put it a number, but I would caution on one point: grow gradually. Don't grow एकदम 0 से 50-100 पे पहुंच गए, ऐसा नहीं करना है. आप पहले 5-6 को सर्व करिए, उसमें you assess yourself whether how you are delivering your service, how client is liking your service, modulate your what you call service offering, and then slowly go up is the approach which I would take it.
Okay, got it, sir. Now we will proceed to the last question, which is on how to give cost code to a client. Any specific thoughts on this? Abhishek Jain asked on cost code.
So Abhishek, again, I like to take a client-centric view of this question also. See, the cost plus is the most traditional way to do it, right? But that is again our need to say this is my cost structure. I want to make so much profit. Therefore, this is the price. I always think that the value of your service is determined through the eyes of the buyer. Okay, so something which is very simple to us could be very complex to a client, right? So then there is every possibility for you to charge a higher fee, right? So I think I would like to answer it a little differently. I would say figure out what is the client's problem statement. Okay, that's the first thing in my mind. Second is what is your capability to manage it. Third is what is the client's ability and willingness to pay. Right, so I have, while obviously beyond over a period of time, we now built some pricing and costing models. But I think in the early stages, when you're building out your business, I think you should simply go by the client's ability and willingness to pay. Willingness is very important. I mean, never work with a client base which is able to pay. That is the worst thing that can happen, right? कि पैसे हैं उनके पास में, you deliver the value, but they're not willing to pay. I mean, that's an unfair client. I mean, never try to build a practice. Whatever you do, ये जो pricing है ना, उसमें थोड़ा 19-20 का फर्क आएगा. Let's say your annual turnover in your firm instead of being 2.5 crores could be 2 crores for 2 years. Doesn't matter. But work with the right set of clients, because if you work with fair clients, they will make sure that your revenue will go up over a period of time, right? So I think this costing pricing model is ज़्यादा important. I feel it's more what is your client selection model, right? If you work with fair clients, they will pay you fairly. We have had so many instances where clients have paid us beyond what has been contractually agreed, right? Let's say a CFO mandate fees was say 30 lakhs, this is an illustration. I have one case where the client paid us 80% of the fixed fee as a variable bonus. Okay, so I earned double of what was contractually agreed as fixed fee, right? So if you work with the right people, you deliver the right impact, they will give you. So pricing is not an issue. I think today it is not a very conservative market, especially if you're in Bombay. we find people are not sitting and haggling over fees all the time. No, they are all saying कि boss ये पहले problem solve करो मेरा, ठीक है, बाद में you take the money and go. Yeah, so I think we don't have to compromise on fees. Yeah, but I would let the value discovery and the pricing happen over a period of time, rather than trying to define some kind of an Excel model to work out what is the pricing would be my submission on this question.
Okay, fine. So that's it. These are the only questions that members have asked on the question and answer session. So Nishchit, if you want to take it forward on.
So lovely. So this is with these questions, we are almost to the end of our session, and it has been great day. But जैसे पानी पूरी खाने के बाद एक सूखा पूरी जरूरी है. So उसी तरीके से there's a small element in our session that we usually ended up with a small game just to lighten up everything. So there will be 3 questions that I'll ask. Dinesh sir and Venkat sir, you both have to participate. Let's see who wins. All work, no play makes Jack a dull boy. So let's see if you could answer these questions. So the game here is called Virtual UFO. Okay. So I could not make a better pun out of it. So we had a session called Virtual CFO, the game called Virtual UFO. Dinesh sir, Venkat sir, whoever goes first wins. Okay. So coming up on the screen are unidentified flying objects. These are symbols, and there will be a small hint also with it. Okay. 3 things I'll be asking. You both are unmuted. Whomsoever answers first wins. Okay. Can we start? Can I have a go ahead?
Yep.
Okay. First question. It's a movie. Let's see who answers first. Dinesh sir, Venkat sir.
कोई
Can
मिल
you guess
गया
this movie?
is something to do with the कोई मिल गया or something that
No, it's
Mr.
not.
Kishan's movie.
No, it's not Koi Mil Gaya. Still not the right answer. Venkat sir, would you take a try? Audience can help them out.
Is it like Mera Bharat Mahan?
No, it's not Mera Bharat Mahan. Okay, so you both lose. Is there anyone who can answer that? Okay, it's Mr. India. Okay.
Oh.
So that was the first UFO. None of our guests figured it out. Let's move on to the second one. Okay. Let's try with the second question. Venkat sir, Dinesh sir, this is a freedom fighter. Can you guess who is this?
So I think he is Venkat Raman, the scientist who was also our president, I think.
No, it's a freedom fighter. It's not Venkat Raman. You have to read those symbols. Any guesses? Anyone? It's a simple, it's very popular. It's very popular freedom fighter also.
Lokmanya Tilak.
Any guesses? Anyone in the audience?
Bhagat Singh?
Exactly. Who was that? That was the right answer.
Bhagat Singh. Okay.
Bhagat Singh.
There is a letter. There is someone running. Read.
Okay. So 2 questions down, 0 points to both sirs. The last question, and we'll end up today's show. Let's see who answers first. This is a city.
Agra.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Nice. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed the UFO game that we had. And with this, we end today's show. Thank you so much for the lovely audience. Your participation was optimal. Thank you so much, all the speakers. To give you a formal vote of thanks, we have Siddharth Dwivedi here. Siddharth, please take.
Thank you, Nishchit. First of all, I would like to thank CA Dinesh sir, CA Sandhya madam, and CA Venkat sir for being today's guest. It was enlightening to hear all of you, sir. Some of the key takeaway from this show, as Venkat sir said, create new CFO. CFO is evolving over a period of time. It is all about business partnership approach. That is entrepreneur mindset. CFO should be value addition to the business. It is a shift from traditional approach. Startup is an opportunity for CFO kind of services, result oriented. ROI calculation should be very clear. It is more about more than preparing balance sheet. Types of engagement, hybrid should be more favorable. As Venkat sir said again, work with fair clients and many more points. I am sure members will get benefited from today's chat shows. I would like to thank members present for today's chat show. Thank you each and everyone for participating today's episode. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Nishchit.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Any kind words from you?
The one thing I would like to point out is it was really nice to kind of be part of this very young group. I understood that the study circle is still a fairly new one. So wish you the very best for growing your membership base and creating more impact within the CA community. I really like the idea of a t-shirt, proud to be CA. I think we need to do more of this. And also kudos to you for having tried to make this session interesting. I don't know about the participants, but I'm sure Dinesh and I totally enjoyed the innovative games and the different things you did to kind of keep the engagement levels going. So thank you for having us. Dinesh?
Yeah. So Nishchit, I think very well prepared, and the kind of articulation which you did. It's a very complex subject, but you articulated very well and very well coordinated on that. So keep it up, and interaction with the audience and all was really interesting. So I think you guys are doing great job, and yeah, proud to be CA. Sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. This will end.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.